and you have a constant like this, okay? If your linear term is missing, you can use solve by square roots. Solve by square roots is much easier because here's the method. All you do is get the quad term by itself. Okay, so that's 9x squared equals 432. Okay. Okay, then you're getting x squared by itself, so you're going to divide by 9. All right. If I do 432 divided by 9, that gives me 48. Okay. Now, guys, the last thing you got to do, remember to get rid of a square. You need this particular method on this and complete the square. To get rid of a square, you take the square root of it. And remember, it is plus or minus the square root. Now, remember, that will always cancel out. Okay, now we're gonna round everything to the nearest hundred just to make it uniform across the board. So so square root of 48. So guys, most of these is gonna have two answers. All right. So the first one, if I round to the nearest hundred, will be x equals 6.93. Okay, because I look to the thousandths place, which is the third decimal place. That's an 8, so that's 5 or above. So that's going to round that up to a 3. All right. Now, to get the other one, you just put a negative there. All it's going to do is change the sign of your answer. It ain't going to be a different value. I forgot to put my negative there. All right, so the x equals negative 6.93. Guys, most of these solve by square roots will always be the same number, just opposite of each other. One will be positive, one will be negative. That's one thing about these that it will do that, because you're taking a square root at the end. All right. So looking at the and guys, I'm gonna kind of go through these kind of not too fast, but because you will have a video to watch, you can stop it as much as you want. So if I subtract 2 from both sides. All right, now I'm going to divide both sides by 9. That's 72, so k squared equals 72. Now, same thing, we're going to take the square root of both sides, and it is plus or minus the square root. So that would be k equals plus or minus the square root of 72. So that's going to give me square root of 72. All right, it's going to be round to the nearest hundredth. The thousandths place is a 5, so that's going to round the hundredths place up to a 9. So it's 8.49. And then, of course, it's going to be negative 8.49 because it's plus or minus that. So all right, so that's solving by square roots. Now, looking at the next one, we're doing solve by factoring. Now, guys, the first one is a binomial two-term. Guys, I'm gonna get some batteries for these today, so we'll have plenty. All right. So, guys, if you're going to solve by factoring, you've got to get it in standard form. Okay, you have to get it in standard form. So, in standard form means it's equal to 0, and it's in descending order according to the powers. So now, I'm gonna get this equal to 0 So adding 6x to both sides, that will cancel out. Now, if I write it in standard form, I am missing a constant, but that's not going to matter. Yep, so I'm missing my C value. Now, guys, this is a binomial. So you got two terms, and you've got the quad and the linear term. The way to work with one of these is you're going to factor a GCF out of it. The GCF between these two terms, notice both have an x in it, would be x. And then if I divide by x, that'll be x plus 6. So I just factored the x out of it, right? I just factored the x out of it, and that left me with x times x plus 6. Now, anything that has an x has to be set equal to 0. Well, that's x equals 0, that x right there, okay? So you have two answers. But guys, most of this whole test will have two answers. Very rarely will you have one. And that was number 5. All right, number 7. We still are solved by factoring, so we need to get it in standard form. So that's what it needs to look like. Okay. Now, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. And guys, make sure you write it in standard form. Your quad term, linear term constant, because that's going to be very important in quadratic formula and factoring. Okay. All right, so you've got a quadratic trinomial and you're factoring. So what that means is you're going to have two parentheses. The variable being used goes up front. All right, now we need two numbers that multiply to give me negative 35. So you got to multiply to give you that. Add or subtract to give. We all shut that door. People are so loud. It's got to multiply to give you this number. Add or subtract to give you this number. Now, guys, if you think about it being a negative number, well, let's think about 35 first. So you got 1 and 35, and then you got 5 and 7. Those are only two groups of factors. Now, there's no way this is going to give you negative 2, so that's gone. This is the one you're going to use. Now, one of them's got to be positive, one's got to be negative, okay? Because the reason why this is a negative 35. Now, but there's only one way to write this. It'll give you the middle number when add or subtract it. If you do negative 7 plus 5, because remember it's got to add to give you this, that gives me negative 2. Okay? Well, that tells me that is the right combination. Let me show you what it looks like to not have the right combination. If you write it with the negative being with the 5, that gives you a positive 2. This number will be the wrong sign. That's how you know. If this number ain't the same sign and the same number, something's wrong. Now, so we know this is not what we need. It's this combination here. All right. Negative 7 times 5 is negative 35. Negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. We all let Zach in. Sorry. All right, now. Just leave it cracked, Daniel. Be fine. All right, so the two answers there, guys, is 7 and negative 5 after you set them equal to 0. All right. Now moving on to the quadratic formula. Now, to do the quadratic formula, you have to have it in standard form. Remember, standard form is that form. So quad term, linear term, constant. If you don't put quadratic formula in the right form, it'll mess it all up. Okay. So now this needs to be 0. So I'm going to add this. I'm going to add that 8x. Make sure you put it in the correct order. So it's going to be quad term, linear term, constant. There's a paper right there, Jake. Jake. Now, so it's in standard form, quad term, linear term, constant. So we need to get my A, B, and C. All right, so A is 12, B is 8, C is 12. A, B, C. All right. Now, guys, remember the quadratic formula is x equals opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Now, guys, remember the way I taught you how to do it, which honestly I don't care how you do it as long as you get the right answer. Go ahead and get your discriminant first. Okay. So now to get your discriminant, it's just b squared. Okay, so you're going to take that and you're just going to plug the numbers in. Okay, so b is 8, so 8 squared. A is 12, C is 12. So I just plugged in B, A, and C. The 4 is always there. All right, now, so guys, at that point, put that all in your calculator. You the only one that needs to go in parentheses every time is the b squared term because of the being squared. All right. So guys, we do have a negative discriminant. So all right, now the number that goes here is opposite of b. Well, b is 8, so it's going to be negative 8. This is negative 8. Looking at our formula here, so opposite of b, the b term is 8, so it's going to be negative 8. Now the bottom is 2 times a. Well, a is 12, so 2 times 12 is 24. Yeah, that's what we want. We're going to do that next. Romans said, now, guys, if you leave it like this, I cannot give you any credit because we've talked about this before. You can't leave a negative in there. So what we're going to do, guys, please don't do that. You're going to take the negative out, put an I in front. Okay, now, guys, unless you have it in complex form on the calculator, it's going to give you an error if you put a negative in there. Let me show you how to do it. So what you're going to do, you're going to plug. Now you ain't going to plug the I in. You're just going to put in the calculator. Just leave the I out when you plug it in. So it's going to be negative 8. Let me put this in parentheses first. So negative 8 plus the square root of 512. Notice I did not put a negative in there. I did not put an I. So I just plugged it in there without anything, just no negatives, no I's. Yeah, you could do. I need to see this right here though. in case you miss it down here. This right here will give you most of your credit here. So what that will be is point. So if I round to the nearest hundred, it's 0.61, and then just put your I at the back. Okay. So x equals, or whatever it is, x equals. Now x equals. Now we remember, don't rewrite it. Just do second enter or retype it. Just go over here and change it to a minus sign. So that's negative 1.28, and then just put I. So those are your answers. Now, guys, if you remember, you don't have to, but if you remember, if you go to mode, mine's already in A plus BI at the bottom. It says real A plus BI, and then R raised to R times E raised to the theta times I, which you won't ever use that. But now, if it's like that, if you plug it in, if you go up here and plug it in with the negative, all right, so you actually could plug it in with the negative, which you don't have to. They're going to give it to you because they're doing the real part and the imaginary part. Just do it the way we're doing it. I'd have to show you. That's an answer for a different time. All right, so let's not do it that way. Just do it the way I showed you, and just put it with the I like that. Because what they're doing, they're splitting the real part up, making that negative 1/3, and then they're dividing that, making that the imaginary part. That's why it's separated plus and minus. All right, we'll just do it this way. Guys, honestly, with this, that's going to be majority of your credit right there. Matter of fact, I don't really care if you make it, if it's imaginary, just leave it in that form right there. Because guys, really, at the end of the day, this is not 100% correct, honestly, because you have to write it with the real and imaginary part. So if it's imaginary, guys, let's do this. Let's not write it this way. Let's just leave it in that form right there. Okay. But you have to have the I here, and the negative don't need to be there. Okay. Just leave it like this, because I don't want to teach you something that's not right. So if you got an imaginary, like say you have an imaginary solution tomorrow where you have a negative square root, just leave it in this form right here. But make sure you take the negative out of the square root and put the I in front of it. Yeah, just leave it like I got. Don't put it in decimal form because that's not correct, actually. Yeah, what I did, that's because thinking about, I see where they got that answer. They split up into two answers. That's what they're doing. All right. All right, so quadratic formula again. So I need to get it standard form. So I'm going to add A, add 12. That's 7A squared plus A plus 12 equals 0. So number 11. Now, A is 7. Guys, in front of the A is a 1, so this B is 1, and then C is 12. Okay? All right, now from here, figure your discriminant, B squared minus 4AC. So it's going to be 1 squared minus 4 times 7 times 12. It's going to be another imaginary solution. Now, so doing my discriminant, all right, it's negative 335. So All right, now, what goes out here, remember, is the opposite of B, so that's -1. So because B is +1. So -1 plus or minus. And then down here, remember, is 2 times A, so that's going to be 2 times 7 is 14. All right, now, so guys, we do have imaginary solutions, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave it like this. We're going to write it as -1 plus or minus I square root of 335. Because we're not doing that splitting the complex. Just leave it like that. Guys, the number one reason why people mess this up is because of the standard form. On your bottom here is x equals opposite of b. Talking about your formula. 2a. Well, your a is 7, right? So, because a is 7, so 2 times 7 is 14. Yeah. All right. So, guys, the last thing we're going to do is complete the square. Guys, I've got all these worked out up here too on paper if you need to see it. Practice, man. Yeah. All right. So 13. Yeah. This is a review. It will not be as many as you have here. It's probably going to be between 12 and 14. All right. Now, guys, completing the square, your equation needs to look like this. Variable terms equals constant. That's what it needs to look like. All right. Jacob Lawrence, why are you on your phone, man? You didn't put that up. All right. So guys, we need to get our constant over here. Okay. So if I'm minus 25 from both sides, that's going to be -20. Okay. So 25 minus 25 was -20. Okay. Now, we're going to rewrite it this way. R squared plus 12R plus a blank. Guys, remember, those are always plus signs. Equals -20 plus blank. Now, does anybody remember how to get this number in this number? Yeah, it's B term, right? B term divided by 2 squared. Wednesday, I think. Yeah, so we do the B term divided by 2 squared. So now that's 12 divided by 2 is 6. Now, guys, this will always be a perfect square. So that's going to be 36 and 36. You're going to put that number in both places. Okay? Okay, so the right side, if I add this together, that gives me 16. Okay? Now, the left side you write as a big parenthesis squared. Okay? I'm going to write it that way. Now, if you remember how to fill in this parenthesis, the variable goes first. The first sign, which is plus, this sign right here always goes in this right there. Okay? And then the square root of this number, well, the square root of 36 is 6. You're going to take that number and put it here. Okay? So variable, first sign, square root of the C value. Guys, remember that will always be a perfect square. If you take the square root of that number and it's a decimal, something's wrong. It needs to be a whole number. Now, next step, guys. Does anybody remember what to do next? Because it has something to do with this. You square root both sides, right? You're going to square root both sides. That is r plus 6 equals. Now, guys, remember, when you square root the left side, it's going to drop the square root in the square and the parentheses, okay? And that becomes plus or minus 4. Does everybody understand where I got 4 from? Square root of 16, right? That's a perfect square. Now, guys, this doesn't have to be a perfect square, but if it's not, just leave it as the square root of something, whatever that number is. But in this case, it is. So minus 6. So, guys, this is going to give me two answers. R equals 4 minus 6, and R equals negative 4 minus 6. Positive 4 minus 6, negative 4 minus 6. That's where we got these two. This right here gives me two answers. All right, so that's all right. And guys, tomorrow is all about showing the work, how to do it. Guys, the work is we're gonna have photo math. No. I want you to pass, but I want you to pass it on your own by your own means. Not by the help of photo math. All right. Yeah. All right. So, guys, what I would be doing, trying to do this with photo math, this test review is going to hurt you a lot more than it's going to help you. I'm going to tell you why. If you try to do photo math to do this particular assignment just to get finished, you're not going to know how to do it tomorrow. Guys, what I would do if it was me is go home, watch the video. And guys, you don't have to sit and watch the whole 30 minutes or whatever it is. Just fast forward it till you see the problem. Write the problem down, see if you can work it out the way it needs to be, and then if you can get the answer, that's great. If not, if you can't get it, no matter what you do, watch me work it out, and then go back and try it again. All right. Another thing, you have the correct answer, so that tells you if you are doing it correctly also. All right, so guys, we're completing the square. So we're going to add 75 to both sides. Now, can somebody tell me how to find the numbers that go in these blanks? It's the same number. What? Negative 2, which is the B value. What am I going to do with it? By 2 squared. So that's negative 1. Guys, make sure if you have a negative number, put it in parentheses before you square it. Because, guys, if you don't, it'll give you the wrong answer. Now, that's going to be 1. So 1 here, 1 here. Okay? Guys, I'm going to try to be where these completing the squares work out to be a whole number instead of a decimal. That's what I'm going to try to do. They'll let me do it. All right, now. So that's 81. Can anybody tell me what this inside the parentheses is going to look like? So the square root of 1 goes here, right? So that's 1. What goes here and here? The x. and the first sign, whatever that sign there is. Guys, this sign here is always a sign that goes here. So be careful to put that sign right. If not, it'll mess it up, okay? Now, the next step is square root it, plus or minus. All right. Now, that's going to drop your parentheses and get rid of the square root and square on the left side. It pretty much takes everything away on the left except the inside expression. Now, this is 9. Square root of 81 is 9. So if I add 1, so what that gives me, guys, is x equals 10. And then, yep, x equals negative 8. Well, guys, that's all the odd ones, okay? If you need to see me work out the odd ones again, I'm going to be at the podium. Guys, make sure you know what you're doing before you leave. If you need a little help on the evens, I can give you those. I can help you. I can't give you the answers for those, but I can help you if you get stuck. I don't want to be helping you on every single one, though. All right. So, guys, I'm going to post a video. Let me go ahead and stop it.